rare and balanced view on politics in today's world. Based on facts, born of rationality, common sense, and logic, providing context on today's events, this is American Perspective with Rick Thomas.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to American Perspective. I am your host, Rick. Oh, my goodness. You know, there was I found a few articles that basically demonstrate, I think, in clarity, in terms of what the left has been doing over the course of the last 40 or 50 years in order to co-opt, there we go, that's the word that I'm looking for, co-opt all of our institutions, particularly our mass media and our educational systems, in order to make it seem like there's basically to indoctrinate 1984 kind of style our young people. And so tonight I'm going to show you those articles, and I'm basically going to demonstrate this is exactly how these people, these leftists, do this thing. And so we're going to go through that here in just a minute or two, as soon as I get there. Now, let's go ahead and get things kicked off tonight. The pledge is being sent to us from one of our dearly departed heavenly Whiskey Warrior P1s. He was he left this earth quite some time ago. A little over, I think it's been almost a year now. Maybe a little bit longer. I got to remember if it was a year or 2 years. I'm losing it already. But anyway, let's go ahead and get things kicked off tonight with our Whiskey Warrior. I'll call him the grandfather of the Whiskey Warrior P1s, Buddy Weiser. So, if you are of mine, please stand, remove your hat if you're wearing one, like me. Place your hand over your heart and follow along with our dearly departed friend, Buddy Weiser, as he recites the Pledge of Allegiance.
I hereby pledge my allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which she stands, one nation under one God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all her citizens. So help me God.
And of course, we miss our friend, Buddy Weiser. If you would like to hear your rendition of the pledge played here on the program, all you need to do is record yourself reciting or performing the pledge in your style. Take that audio file, video file, whatever kind of file, and attach it to an email. And address that email to me by sending it to fans, F-A-N-S, at AmericanPerspective.online. That's fans, F-A-N-S, at AmericanPerspective.online. And I will get you into the rotation. I have 25 of these. I'd like to get 26 by the end of 2026. So if you haven't done so and would like to do so, I would certainly appreciate it if you would record yourself reciting the pledge in your style. Take that and send it off to me. If you use your phone to record with, you can use the share option. That's the S-H-A-R-E option, and you'll be able to forward that or share it to fans, F-A-N-S, at AmericanPerspective.online, and I will get you into the rotation as quickly as possible. You know, it's kind of funny. We were talking about Buddy, and a couple of things. One, this background that I'm using right here, I blurred it, but he's the one that sent it to me. And then the whole share option, that whole piece came from him. The idea of doing the Pledge of Allegiance every show, that came from him. A lot of the, I would say almost all of the bar backgrounds came from him. I mean, he did so much for this show. And the thing about it is I was literally a nobody at the time that this show started. And he advocated and helped me and suggested all kinds of things. Yeah, Pet of the Week came from him. Yeah, there's just so much of an influence that he did on this show that, we got to give him props all the time. Whenever this comes around, I always think about him. And, he did so much for this program, and not a single thing did he ever ask for in return. I think it was one exception. He did ask me to check up on him every once in a while if something did happen. And, well, yeah. Anyway, rest in peace, buddy. All righty, folks, let's go ahead and move on to our headline sponsor. Let's see if it comes up. No, of course not, because I didn't set everything up here. I swear, every single time I do this, I'm getting later and later in terms of getting things going. Oh, I hate this part. That thing always misaligns whenever I first show it. All right, tonight. Yeah. Oh, I will try for sure. I will try for sure. All right. Tonight's headline sponsor is theflagshirt.com. I'm wearing one of their fabulous men's cotton polos. I love their men's cotton polos, especially I wear them 9 months out of the year. In the 3 months that we actually have really hot weather, I switch over to some of their performance t-shirts and things of that nature too, and some other t-shirts that I have. But I do love their men's cotton polos. True to size, great color, great fit. They don't shrink in the wash, and generally speaking, you might get a little bigger, but but they don't shrink in the wash. Anyway, head on over to theflagshirt.com, get yourself one of those wonderful shirts. Check out all of their men's, women's, kids, made in the USA, America 250. Don't forget also all of their accessories in the good old red, white, and blue. And if you order $75 or more of their product, they will provide you with free shipping. That's right. You order $75 or more of their product, and they will give you free shipping. And let me tell you, folks, these people know how to ship. Because I can order something. I'm on the complete opposite catty corner of the country, of the lower 48 from them. They are in Florida. I am in Washington. And I can go and order, and it will show up within 1 week. It is amazing how quickly they get the order out. They don't mess around. Veteran owned, and I think it's even veteran run. I think his son is a veteran as well. Steve. This is Steve down here in the corner. Steve is the owner. Yeah, let me get close here. Whoop. Yeah, you'll just have to do. Yeah, that's Steve right there in the corner. And he's got his picks. You can check out his picks too. His choices. You can also get gift cards for that person that you don't have any idea what their style is like. So you can purchase gift cards and send them from theflagshirt.com. I highly recommend you go and check them out. They also have a Made in America collection. But go and check them out at theflagshirt.com. That's theflagshirt, all one word, .com. Go and get yourself patriotized. They've been a long-time partner of this program. Yeah, so go and check them out. All right. Well, as expected, before we get into tonight's major topic, as expected, the Dems totally do a meltdown over Trump's Lake Ontario rename. Yeah. And believe me, my Mrs. Whiskey was in here just a minute ago. She goes, oh my gosh, I can't even imagine. There were people on social media that were all talking about it. I mean, what the heck? Look, folks, I don't really care. Gulf of America, Gulf of Mexico, Lake Ontario, Lake America, Ocean America, whatever it is that he's planning on doing next. He kind of played around with that one. He was like, maybe we'll rename the Pacific. Maybe we'll rename the Atlantic. Yeah. Anyway, whatever. Oh, it's just funny to watch the reactions. That's all. I mean, none of this is really going to stick. And what's even better, yeah, Bonnie, I know. What's even better is these guys are freaking out over the fact that Trump renamed the Gulf of Mexico to the Gulf of America and the Lake Ontario to Lake America. But they forget Biden, during the Biden administration, they renamed all kinds of things. They renamed statues. They renamed, look at all the sports teams that changed, like the Washington Redskins to the Washington Commanders. They forced renames of all kinds of, all of the military bases like Fort Hood to Fort Cavazos and Fort Bragg to Fort Freedom or Liberty or whatever the hell it was. They sit there and they complain about Trump renaming just 2 items, and they went around and renamed quite literally 100 of them, I would believe. Not only that, but don't forget, during the Biden administration, they got rid of Aunt Jemima, they got rid of Uncle Ben, they got rid of the Land O'Lakes butter person, the iconic Native American lady, or Indian lady. Not East Indian, but Indian. They, Aunt Jemima was a real person. And she was a fantastic cook, a fantastic woman. And they got rid of her just because it was offensive to have a black woman on her products. Hello, it was her products. Same thing with Uncle Ben Rice. I mean, anyway. Oh, I'm being told by my unofficial producer I mislabeled the Land O'Lakes butter lady. She's Feather. She's not an East Indian. I know that. Anyway. You guys are having a meltdown over this little thing. Now, granted, I mean, yeah, okay, whatever. But seriously, you guys, meaning the Dems, Dems and leftists, went on a complete renaming trip throughout the entire country. And here he renames 2 items. I mean, oh, no, I'm sorry, 3, because we can't forget he renamed the Kennedy Center the Trump Kennedy Center. Anyway, Chris Martz. It might be Mars. I don't know how it's pronounced. Martz. He's a meteorologist guy that I follow on Facebook. He pointed out the same thing. He goes, I don't agree with the whole Lake Ontario, Lake America thing. He goes, and I really didn't agree with the Gulf of Mexico and Gulf of America, although that really didn't bother him as much. But then he goes and he lists all of the changes that happened under the Biden administration. Was like, hello, you guys are renaming everything, and there you go. Anyway. Yeah. Oh, God. You guys just need something to complain about, apparently. Whatever. Anyway. Well, Trump's picking up where he left off. Apparently in Arizona, the border wall construction continues. Well, begins. A federal judge permitted the government to go ahead and move forward with the construction in Arizona. Now, you'll recall the Arizona governor at the time was like, you're not building your wall here. Well, lady, there's this thing known as the border. It's an international border. The term national being in it means that the president can do what he wants with that border wall. With approval from Congress, of course. Anyway, the border wall construction begins, and it's targeting a smuggling corridor that is coming through Arizona. So there you go. Yeah. This in the Epoch Times, the U.S. Customs and Border Protection said on August 25th that the wall project is located along one of the most dangerous smuggling and trafficking corridors on the southwest border. The wall segment is part of the $46.6 billion effort by the Trump administration to fill the border with 30-foot steel bollard walls, vehicle barriers, and technology designed to stop illegal immigration. Oh my God, it's Friday and I haven't even cracked a bottle yet, and I'm already having problems. Woo. Anyway, a federal judge permitted the government to move forward with the construction earlier this month. Authorities said that the desert spanning the Tohomo, Tohomo, Odom Nation, must be a Native American reservation down there. Anyway, is a hotspot for drug smuggling. The project will close one of the most dangerous smuggling and trafficking corridors on the southwest border, remote desert that has facilitated decades of drug loads, migrant deaths, and cartel activity. CBP Commissioner Rodney Scott said in the statement. It was sent out in August 25th. So there you go. Apparently, SLSCO, a Texas-based construction company building the section in Arizona, has secured over $390 million in funding from the Department of Homeland Security to build the border wall since 2023. The construction company is building 22 miles of primary border wall system and approximately 13 miles of detection technology. These contracts were awarded using funds from the One Big Beautiful Bill. The project ran into opposition from the Native American tribe there, who said the project would inflict lasting damage on its land, culture, and religious practices. Now, that nation filed a motion in June to block construction of the border wall. However, a federal judge on August 14th declined to do so. In an August 24th statement, the nation that said that at 4 a.m. on Tuesday, border wall contractors and approximately 20 masked armed CBP agents from Tucson entered the reservation and began engaging in pre-construction activities. It said that the CBP, Bureau of Indian Affairs, and the Border Patrol Tactical Unit SWAT team were deployed to the nation to protect the contractors, and that federal authorities are using a tethered balloon for enhanced monitoring. Okay, great. Yeah. Anyway, it's so it's going. It's going. Folks, it's a good thing. Be glad it's just a metal wall that's like open. Me personally, I would have put a 40-foot concrete barrier with sniper nests, sniper and observation posts every, so often along the border wall. That's the way I would have done it. And then I would have made a moat on the other side. I'd have connected the Pacific and the Atlantic through a very wide, not so wide and deep that that ships can go through, but a very wide moat that would allow alligators, crocodiles. Well, they'd be crocodiles because alligators are freshwater. But, alligators, crocodiles, whatever, piranha, I don't care. All in the moat with Constantina wire on the other side. I'm not messing around here, folks. Yeah, that would be the border wall. That border wall would resemble more of the North Korea, South Korea border than the border of the USA and Mexico. And hey, Canada, I'm looking at you too, because I'd be on the other side doing the exact same thing. Anyway, I know I'm gonna get flack from leftist and lunatic idiots for that. I don't care. All right, Gators. Yeah, Gators would be a great thing for the border. What, you mean your Florida Gators? Oh, there we go. Take the Florida Gator team, football team, and deploy them along the border. Oh, I'm just messing with the matriarch of the Whiskey Warrior P1s. Anyway, all right. So there's some new information that has come out about the Strait of Hormuz. That's right. Apparently, all this blubbering and puffing out of their chest and all of the claims of the fact that the Strait of Hormuz has been mined, there's no way a ship can get through at all. The complete thing is mined. Yeah, it was mined all right. It was mined with trash bags. That's right. New report came out that apparently Iran mined it. And the question, somebody asked this question. They were like, hey, you know what? If Iran actually mined the Strait of Hormuz, how come we haven't seen any ships sunk or damaged by such mines? Well, that's because they weren't. They weren't. Now, apparently, just kind of keep this in mind, mines are very easy to put out there, but they are not so easy to get rid of them. So once you put them out there, it's kind of difficult to get them back. Anyway, we don't have enough minesweepers, apparently, to pick all of these things up. But anyway, and by the way, back in the Cold War, and according to this piece by PJ Media, got to give him props. Back during the Cold War, we let our NATO allies deal with much of the Soviet mining threat, while our Navy focused more on ship and submarine threats on the sea. Well, then we won the Cold War, and our NATO allies let their minesweeping capabilities just sort of die. So we went ahead and did nothing. We didn't increase ours at all either. So Tehran obviously must have done their homework and realized that we don't have enough minesweepers, or we don't have hardly any. And neither does the rest of the world. So they went and said, hey, we mined this whole thing. Well, yeah, it appears now that they lied. Because according to a outlet called Iran Watcher, they reported today that Hormuz's minefields was largely a bluff built on decoys, while even the real mines were reportedly poorly deployed. According to reporting cited by CNBC's Brian Sullivan, ship owners said many suspected mines were actually decoys. They were inflated trash bags at some places. Separate reporting citing U.S. officials said more than 200 mine-like objects were cleared from the main shipping lane, but actually about 11 were the mines. And think about that. That's like, if I do quick math in my head, 1%. Anyway. So apparently just the small number of mines mixed in with the decoys was enough to frighten ship owners, which that's completely understandable, which drove up war risk insurance and helped choke commercial traffic. Well, Traffic, according to reports, is up something like 400% over just the last 2 weeks. And by the way, that data itself is a week old. So we're going to have to see how much traffic is actually going through there. But now, yeah, we reportedly, according to Trump, we reportedly have completely swept the Strait of Hormuz, cleared it of all its mines and decoys, and now it is under our control, meaning the U.S. So there you go. And that actually is the first article with regards to the whole, this is how they do it. See, Tehran utilized exactly the type of tactics. Tell a lie, tell it often enough, it becomes truth just by itself. And they took over the mainstream media by saying it over and over and over again and not ever changing their tune. See, that's one of the tactics that are used by these leftist idiots that are running around trying to run our country. This is what they do. They say the lie, they tell it often enough, and it becomes the truth. So many people were never questioning, well, wait a minute, Iran's capabilities. I mean, seriously, do they really have the capability to, like, mine the entire Strait of Hormuz? Nobody ever asked that question. They were just like, oh, well, okay, they say their mines out there, you know, and again, because mines are easy to place but difficult to remove, they just trusted that. Well, kind of interesting. There's another aspect to this is how they do it in terms of taking control and controlling the minds and doing the brainwashing and indoctrination. Anybody ever remember some of the shows, television shows, our entertainment that was in the 80s? You know, when I'm going to admit it, I was a MacGyver fan. I really was. I was a MacGyver fan in the 80s. I had the hairdo at one point, at least as much as my mother would allow. And I never really realized until I went back, now that I'm an adult, until I went back and watched the MacGyver series. You know, that's one of the advantages that you have with streaming. You can go back and you can take a look at some of the television shows that you used to watch. Like I've gone through MASH a couple of times. And even MASH had a little bit of wokeness in it in some cases, although it was still couched in, you know, innuendo and things of that nature. But there was, you know, anti-war sentiments. There was, you know, that kind of stuff within MASH. And now that I'm a lot older and I'm a lot more wiser and more wise to the game, I'm starting to see the differences. And for an example, with the old MacGyver series, and the reason why I say old MacGyver, because there's a new MacGyver, and the new MacGyver that came out, that one wasn't quite as, shall we say, woke as the old MacGyver was, if you go and compare the two, although it had its moments too, don't get me wrong. But I go and I was watching the old MacGyver and I realized, oh my gosh, he is such a greenie, an environmentalist, the climate change was a huge subject matter in almost all of the episodes. There was some methodology or some. Now, keep in mind, the show was like focused on science and using science to solve problems, although none of the stuff that was in there would actually work. I mean, Mythbusters went and like busted a bunch of MacGyver myths. But still, some of the stuff that was in there was kind of cool, like, you know, making a battery out of a potato. That's a actual science project that does function, okay? But anyway, I digress. The point here is that this is how they do it. They adopt and take over. I can't think of the word. Co-opt. There we go. I keep forgetting that word. Co-opt children's shows and they hire people in particular who are, shall we say, leftist. What am I talking about? Well, for those of you that have young kids today, you might want to watch out for this lady. Her name is Ms. Rachel. Ms. Rachel. And she apparently has some seriously radical politics. And she's not afraid to show it. Now here, this is another thing, is that when you have stars like this, you know, in today's society with social media and everything else, you can now follow all of your stars. See, back when I was growing up, you just watched them on TV for 30 minutes or an hour, whatever it was. It actually turned into more like, if it was an hour-long program, it was more like 45 minutes with all the ads and breaks, commercial breaks and stuff. But you go and you watch these programs, and of course, kids nowadays are able to actually follow their stars by following their Instagram, their Facebook, if they have them. You know, that apparently is passe now. Snapchats, whatever else. All of the social media outlets are like covered with these celebrities. And when you get enamored with these people, yeah, you're sitting there looking to see, oh, what is so-and-so saying today, you know, and that kind of thing. Well, this woman apparently has some seriously radical politics. According to this piece in Townhall, she appeared with a photojournalist by the name of Motaz Azaza. I think I'm mincemeating his name. But anyway, he became the face of Gaza during the whole Gaza war, you know, conflict, whatever you want to call it, with Israel, after the Palestinians attacked and broke down the fence and everything else on October 7th. Now, Ms. Rachel, who is this children's content creator, she's, by the way, staged a sing-along with children outside an ICE facility. I mean, what the hell? Why? She's rubbed elbows with people like the Zoflake Mandani. And she's given money to El Sayed's Senate campaign. Now, here she is. This is on Instagram. She's with this face of Gaza. This is the face of Gaza, folks. I mean, really? What the hell is she doing with these people? Oh, she even goes so far as, hi, friends. What is the letter of the day? It's M. Hi, Ms. Rachel here. Yes, it's M for my friend Motaz, he says. Yeah. Motaz is a pro-Palestinian activist, of course, sympathetic to Hamas, and continually accuses Israel of genocide. Now, you don't think that kids are connecting the dots here, even subconsciously, with some of this stuff? Oh my gosh, Ms. Rachel, she's with this guy. He's pro-Palestinian, so we should be pro-Palestinian because we really love Ms. Rachel. This is exactly how they do it. They get people, the leftists, get people who can be charismatic, especially to the children on screen, and talk about it, and talk about all of these things when realistically, I mean, again, Israel is not committing genocide. It never did. But I guarantee you the Palestinians want to commit genocide. Absolutely. I mean, if you go to Israel, there are Arabs in Israel. There are Arabs living just fine in Israel. But you want to know what really is interesting is that if an Israeli, a Jew, goes to the Temple Mount. Now, keep in mind, the Temple Mount is a common area where all kinds of religions lay claim to this particular area in terms of religious background and so on and so forth. But if a Jew goes to the Temple Mount and starts praying, They're probably going to get beaten, arrested, or both. If a Arab goes to the Temple Mount and starts praying, nobody says anything. That's the difference. And I'm telling you, if a Jew were to go to any of these other countries or even into Gaza, if a Jew were to go into Gaza, they would get killed. It'd be almost immediate. Yet if a Palestinian goes into Israel, they go to work. Nothing happens to them. Because the Jews don't have the same bloodlust for destroying the Palestinians as the Palestinians do against the Jewish people. Israelis in particular. This is how they do it, folks. This is exactly how they do it. They go through and they teach the children what they want them to know. Here's another way that they do what they do in terms of indoctrination. This falls under the when you control the language, you control the mind. This just came out here in the New York Post. Canada's CBC, Canadian Broadcasting Corporation, instructs its staff not to call 9/11 a terrorist attack in their news coverage. Yeah, this went over like a lead balloon. Anyway, the CBC, Canadian Broadcasting Corporation, instructed its staff not to refer to the murders, I'm going to put murders in there. It says killings, but I'm going to put murders in there, on 9/11 as a terrorist attack ahead of its coverage of the 25th anniversary, according to an internal memo. The public broadcaster reaffirmed that it would avoid using words like terrorist and terrorism when describing the events, directing its staffers to follow the long-standing company policy that previously landed them in hot water over their October 7th, 2023 coverage. Yeah, if you're on the audio portion of the program, I raised my eyebrow, kind of like The Rock does, like, Yeah. Here's the memo. Do not refer to September 11 attacks as terrorist attacks. The hijackings led to passenger jet crashes in Washington, D.C., Pennsylvania, and Manhattan. Wait, what? Who do you think hijacked the freaking planes, you dumbasses? They continued and said the World Trade Center, WTC in the second reference, was destroyed. Yeah, because these hijackers who were terrorists took over the planes and flew them into the World Trade Center towers. Yeah. The memo was signed BB, which is the Toronto Sun, which the Toronto Sun, which first published the letter, identified as Bassam Boshra, Senior Director of Journalistic Standards and Public Trust at the CBC. Now, the CBC has defended the memo as a reminder to its journalists to adhere to the decades-old practice, claiming that changing phrases like terrorist attacks, that charged phrases like terrorist attacks would diminish their ability to remain impartial. Huh? It's impartial to reference actual fact. Okay. Here's the statement. Oh, this is a nice photo of the 9/11 terrorist attacks. Anyway, here's what the CBC told the New York Post. Our focus is to report the facts of such atrocities with accuracy, clarity, and detail, to convey the scale and scope of violent acts wherever they occur, to quote the people affected, and to convey the views of officials and experts on these events. We bear witness. This is by Kerry Kelly, Kerry Kelly, who is the public affairs spokesman for the CBC. Okay, look, a spokesperson, so maybe it's a woman. I don't know. Folks, there were men, who were collected and charged. They literally were ISIS terrorists that did this. Okay? Why are you now trying to change the language in the course of history? Oh, some people did something. Yeah, that's the Ilhan Omar statement right there. Seriously? Come on, you morons. But this is exactly what they do, folks. This is exactly what they do. They take the language and they modify it to either soften it in some ways or harden it in others or change people's perception, change people's thinking. And they do this on purpose. And nobody in the mainstream media seems to want to call them out for it. Okay. By the way, that statement continued and it says, the CBC News does not itself designate specific groups as terrorists or specific acts as terrorism, regardless of the region of the events, because those words are so labeled with meaning, politics, and emotion that they can end up being impediments to our journalism. My frustration level is starting to rise here because, again, the people who did this were connected to terrorist groups that have been designated terrorist groups by quite a few countries in the world. It was literally a terrorist act. And here these leftist lunatics in Canada are trying to modify the language in order to soften the blow, in order to make things, oh, no, it's got to be, we can't call them terrorists, even though they were connected to a terrorist organization, even though, bin Laden was a terrorist and they were connected all the way back to bin Laden, because if you recall, bin Laden ended up dying by SEAL Team 6 in the Obama era. But no, they weren't terrorists. Nope. Some people just did something. Oh my gosh. But see, this is the problem. Because what ends up happening is you'll have an entire generation. Now, this is 25 years later. Keep in mind, okay? My son was born shortly after the attacks. He's 25 years old, or will be this year, okay? This is a generation. A generation is defined as 20 years. This is a generation that will have, if this is allowed to continue, will have an entire section of Canada in particular believing that, well, some people did something. It wasn't terrorists. It wasn't Muslims. Oh, yeah, they probably won't even say that. They probably won't even talk about that in terms of what their religion was. Oh, no. They probably won't even talk about the fact that they were actually of Saudi descent either, reportedly. But this is what they do. They modify the language. They modify what you can say, what you can't say. I mean, even like right now, if I were to say some particular words, for an example, basically say something, about a particular religion, let's say, and that particular religion has a hell bent built in to take over the world, that's their entire philosophy is to control everything from government, individuals. Individual freedom is gone. You must follow this book, this particular book. If I were to say all that, I'd be told I was xenophobic, or that I was racist, or that I was Islamophobic, even though the statements that I just said are actually 100% true. There's another way that these leftists do this, and this is a fantastic example. The way that this works is you take imagery, or you take pieces and parts of something, okay? Pieces and parts of something that a person may not have any sort of a grounded reference to, and you apply that to another person. So what happens is you get shown something, and to children, this is like, oh, this is just no big deal. But your parents, who have the grounded reference in the imagery, understand the point that is being made. And anybody with that kind of knowledge understands the point of what's being made. You're looking at it and going, hold up, wait a minute, that's false. Here's an example. Remember when Biden gave his classic speech in front of Independence Hall? The one where he started yelling about mega extremists, had his fists pumping in the air, and had in the background Independence Hall lit up with red lights, the two American flags hanging, and the two Marines on either side of the walkway. Well, folks, that in and of itself, that imagery was also utilized by none other than Adolf Hitler. Adolf Hitler gave a speech. Adolf Hitler had his hands up. Adolf Hitler had his double S or whatever it is, the Stasi standing on the sides. His double, everything that Joe Biden was doing was telling you about hate. But yet, nobody really caught the imagery unless you were alive, or at least had studied history and understood the imagery of the attachment to the Nazis. Now, the Department of Education, which, by the way, the Department of Education doesn't exist constitutionally speaking. In fact, Andrew Jackson was the first one who became the first president who implemented anything regarding education with the Secretary of Education, which was quickly torn down by the following president and not brought back into existence until Jimmy Carter created the Department of Education in the late 70s. Now, since the formation of the Department of Education, our educational standards here in the United States have quickly fallen against the world. And this is a fact. We used to be in the top 5, let's say. And now we're somewhere in the mid-30s since then. But hey, the Department of Education is supposed to be doing all this wonderful educational stuff, and yet we have certain segments of the country that are not being able to pass basic reading, writing, math tests. They can't even pass them at grade level. I'm looking at you, Baltimore. I'm looking at you, Chicago, in particular. But the Department of Education has brought out some imagery and has tried to tie it to Trump. Yeah. Once again, the leftists are back to the whole idea of comparing Donald Trump to Adolf Hitler. The Department of Education this is in, by the way, the Daily Caller. The Department of Education is receiving criticism after an apparent comparison of President Donald Trump and Nazi leader Adolf Hitler. Now, they posted a video, which is now deleted, to X, featuring a clip of the movie called Darkest Hour. Now, Darkest Hour is a biographical film about Sir Winston Churchill's first weeks as the UK's Prime Minister during World War II. Now, the clip in particular features actor Gary Oldman quoting Churchill saying, "You cannot reason with a tiger when your head is in its mouth." The video then transitions to pictures of Trump set to rapper BIA's song We On Go. Now, I got to admit, I have no idea who the hell BIA is. I have no idea what the song We On Go does. Well, then the post caption then says, "No one does it like us." Except there's only one problem. For anyone who might have lived in World War II, or at least has studied history with regards to World War II, that statement, "You cannot reason with a tiger when your head is in its mouth," Winston Churchill was actually referencing Adolf Hitler as the tiger. Yeah, and a community note on X points this out. There it is. This clip is from the film Darkest Hour, and the tiger in this clip refers to Adolf Hitler. Thank goodness that there are people out there who are a bit honest with regards to this stuff. Now, keep in mind, this video has already been deleted, but it is the internet, so it's out there everywhere by now. But, folks, this is what they do. They utilize imagery, intentional imagery. Now, Ron Filipkowski, there we go, editor-in-chief of liberal media outlet Midas Touch, posted a screenshot of it, and the word tiger, you can see it right here on my screen, and he says the U.S. Department of Education, everyone. Now, you would think the U.S. Department of Education would understand the historical reference, would understand the reference that they were doing. Why are they trying to tie Trump to Hitler? Oh, pretty simple. Nobody in the Department of Education, with the exception of maybe its head, Linda McMahon, likes Trump. Yeah. So, yeah. This is what they do, folks. This is what they do. And yet, of course, if we, meaning the right, or in the particular, the Trump administration, does something similar, okay, they, of course, get all torn up and out of shape and bent out of shape, and they get their panties in a wad and all of this other stuff. Oh, I'm probably going to get in trouble for that one, too. Anyway, this is what they do, folks. That's what they do. Now, here's another one. Here's another one that's an attack on, in particular, the Make America Healthy Again movement. Now, you remember not so long ago that Robert F. Kennedy Jr., as a part of his move to try and make America healthy again, he started discussing vaccines and how vaccines themselves, he didn't ever say that you shouldn't take them. He's just saying you should be a little more aware of the possible connections to certain things. And this has led the Trump administration to change the schedule of vaccines for children and so on and so forth, because there is links. Studies have shown there are some links, although they're not 100% proven yet, so I can't sit here and say that it is a definitive link. But there is suggestive links to things like when vaccines are put one on top of the other, as you may see with vaccine schedules for children, okay, that there is a possibility of an interaction that could cause or be at least somewhat linked to autism. This has been a major push of Robert F. Kennedy, as well as things like dyes and food colorings and things of that nature, which, by the way, General Mills and I can't remember, I think it's Kellogg or somebody else has finally pulled all of their manufactured dyes out of their foods now. They've finally done that. Well, here in the Pennsylvania, okay, there was a big hubbub in the news with regards to a measles breakout. And in particular, there was, there were two deaths from the measles in Pennsylvania. Okay. Now, granted, it wasn't like a level 5 fire meltdown for the left, but it was sort of one of those things where, well, Robert F. Kennedy Jr. just suspended all that. Believe me, I saw some of the Senate, a couple of morons in my state, representatives and senators were jumping all over it. And in fact, even Governor Josh Shapiro jumped all over it. And he says on X, he posted this, he goes, let's set the record straight because Robert Kennedy Jr.'s post is inaccurate and misleading. And he is making claims that have been debunked repeatedly by actual scientists and doctors. Yeah, the same scientists that said that COVID was 2 times more virulent and than the regular flu when it was actually 0.2, those doctors. Yeah, anyway. What happened was Robert Kennedy Jr. posted at his press conference today, Pennsylvania Governor Josh Shapiro accused me of promoting conspiracy theories because I told him during an earlier telephone conversation that some Americans had religious objections to the MMR vaccine because it contained fetal tissue. And he goes, there is. And Governor Josh Shapiro's like, hey, let's make sure. Calm it down. Let's make sure. Well, here's where they tied it together, or they attempted to tie it together via the New York Times. Those 2 unvaccinated people in Pennsylvania have died from the measles, as a large outbreak there continues to spread. The state's health department reported on Tuesday morning they were the first measles deaths this year in the United States. Now, here's a bit of a problem. The problem is that the deaths went from deaths from the measles to deaths were measles associated to the actual cause of death in at least one case was a ruptured spleen. But this is what they do. They take news stories, they focus them, they jump to conclusions, and they never bother to correct it. They never bother to backtrack and go, you know what, folks, we were wrong. No, you can't say that in the news media because if you do, you lose all trust. Well, guess what? You're losing trust anyway because you've been telling people lies this entire time. And by the way, rather than waiting before getting the entire facts of the case, again, the mainstream media has one job and one job only, and that is to be first with the story. Not to be right, but to be first. And this is the problem. So you have, to wrap this all up, you have a intense pervasiveness of leftist ideologies in the mainstream media, in education, and in both places, and also entertainment, in all 3 places that are pervasively demonstrative of their ideological background. Thankfully, at least in the entertainment industry, Hollywood is starting to get backlash where a lot of their woke movies and all that stuff They're not doing that well at the box office. Hopefully we're waking up. We as a society are waking up to the mind games, the brainwashing that these people are using. And in the future, we'll be able to see when things like this occur. Alrighty, folks, that is it for me for this evening. Do me a favor, if you haven't already, head on over to rumble.com, get yourself an account. It is free. And once you are signed up and signed in, make sure that you search up the American Perspective channel and hit that green follow button to get notified every time that I go live. Also, I want to thank some of my newest followers over on Rumble. I see you. I appreciate the follows. Thank you very much. For those of you who aren't familiar with Rumble or want to go someplace else, head on over to pilled.net, my new streaming platform. Go and check that out. Don't forget, on your way out, to give me a thumbs up or a red pill, thumbs down or a blue pill, or in the case of 3 Chevy, thumb sideways or at an angle across all my platforms, whether it's X, YouTube, Facebook, the aforementioned pilled.net, and the aforementioned Rumble. We will see you tomorrow night. It is Saturday, so tomorrow night is 1 hour later, 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern Time, right here on American Perspective. Have a great rest of your evening, and good night, everybody.